Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, of course, we're studying Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, the book by Swami Chaitananda. And we are in the portion of the book where Holy Mother's relationship with the Ramakrishna order is being gone into in some detail. From the very inception of the Ramakrishna order, Holy Mother nourished the monks and devotees with her love and affection. She demonstrated the ideal of the order through her own life. She always pointed out the goal of monastic life: purity and renunciation, unselfishness and truthfulness, mutual love and respect, selfless service and dependence on God. To the householders, she also set the example of an ideal householder's life. In times of difficulty or crisis, she protected the order with her wise counsel and spiritual power. She was the order's source of inspiration and spiritual power. That is why she is called the mother of the order. And now, chapter 25, Mother of All. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Rupena Samshtita. Namastasyai, 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 Namo Namaha. From the Chandi, salutations to the Divine Mother who exists in all beings as the Mother. Salutations to her again and again. Ordinary people think of a mother as a woman who gives birth to children, raises them, takes care of the household, and holds the family together. She might not be as physically strong as a man, but she is more patient and has more perseverance and endurance than most men. Her love and affection, selfless service and care, compassion and forgiveness make her great. In fact, a mother or wife is the anchor of a house, and without her the house seems a desert. The Hindu scripture says, I can't read that. Somebody else please read it for me.
Brother Shankara, what page? I couldn't find what you're reading.
Well, never mind, then we'll just read the English. Hindu scripture says, a housewife makes the house. And I think it says, I'm not certain, something 44, 544.
Let me just check it, yeah.
I can't read what it says. Maybe somebody else knows. A housewife makes the house. There is another old saying, men make houses and women make homes. The Hindu scripture says that all women in the world are parts of the Divine Mother, but they cannot be considered the mother of all because they have a limitation. They do not feel and care for the children of others as they do for their own. But Holy Mother was truly the mother of all because she was an incarnation of the Divine Mother. She knew that she exists in all beings as the mother, and that all living beings, men and women, birds and beasts, trees and plants, emerged from her cosmic body. Now, is there any question about that among us? What's being said here? That Holy Mother was in fact the Divine Mother from which all in time, space, and causation arises. Her tools are the gunas. She is Prakriti itself, untransformed, and yet the potential for everything that exists resides in her. And over the course of a cycle of creation, emerges from her. This is God becoming itself, the mother becoming herself, or Ishvara, the masculine aspect, becoming itself, himself. Any questions or comments about that? All right. There is a prayer in the Chandi. O Mother, you are the infinite power. O Mother, you are the infinite power of God and the supreme Maya, which is the source of the universe. Maya, Prakriti, are equivalent terms, not exactly the same, but as Swami Prabhupada would say, a distinction without a difference. O Mother, you are the infinite power of God and the supreme Maya, which is the source of the universe. O Devi, you have enchanted the whole world with your divine enchantment. When you are gracious, you bestow liberation upon human beings. There is a prayer in the Chandi. O Mother, now we are to understand this is speaking of Sri Sarada Devi. There is a prayer in the Chandi. O Mother, you are the infinite power of God and the supreme Maya, which is the source of the universe. O Devi, you have enchanted the whole world with your divine enchantment. When you are gracious, you bestow liberation upon human beings. And so the subhead is Mother of the Universe. No questions or comments? Okay. In the Vedanta tradition, a person's spiritual experience is ascertained in two ways. Swa, swa,
Samvedya, Swa Samvedya.
samvidya, which means those thoughts and spiritual visions that are seen within one's own self and which are known only to oneself, and parasamvidya, which means a person's thoughts and experiences that are visible to others. Holy Mother herself declared that she was the mother of the universe, and her life, speech, actions, and dealings with people convinced others that her statement was true. Rash Behari, later Swami Arupananda, a young man from East Bengal, went to meet Holy Mother at Jairambati on 1 February 1907. She was very fond of him because of his simplicity and guilelessness, and she made him one of her attendants. He was also very free with the mother. The following dialogue between the two reveals Holy Mother's true nature. He wrote, "I used to visit the mother almost daily in her room. She would lie down on her bed and talk to me, with Radhu lying asleep by her side. An oil lamp cast a dim light in the room. On some days, a maidservant rubbed her feet with medicated oil for rheumatism. One day she said to me in the course of conversation, 'Whenever the thought of a disciple comes to my mind, and I yearn to see him, then he either comes here or writes a letter to me. You must have come here, prompted by a certain feeling. Perhaps you have in your mind the thought of the Divine Mother of the universe. Are you the Mother of the universe? Are you the Mother of all?' I asked. Mother replied, 'Yes.' Even of the subhuman beings, birds and animals? Yes, of these also. Then why should they suffer so much? In this birth, they must have these experiences." Any comments or questions about what's been read? I pause like this so that if anyone is at all doubtful or uncertain or unclear about something, they have the chance to discuss those doubts, uncertainties, clear up any lack of understanding.
Yes, Brother Shankara, I have one small question.
Yes, Sham.
Why should Holy Mother not use the power to dispel the sorrows of others' sufferings? I mean, not sorrows, sufferings.
You said that was a small question, Sham. That, well, here is a story about Rama and Sita. Rama was, of course, the king of Ayodhya. Sita was his queen. Sita observed the suffering of the people and how hard they worked in the hot sun, sometimes, suffered a great deal. And so she implored Rama to overcome all that, make everyone's suffering, make everyone's life pleasant and easy and without suffering. And so he did. And over a period of a couple of years, it became apparent that society was deteriorating. The buildings were crumbling. They weren't being taken care of. People were filled with sattva. They had no rajas. They had no tamas. They were happy and always in a pleasant state of being. And so things were coming to pieces. And so Rama said to her, "Is this what you wanted to see?" And she said, "No, I had no idea this is what would happen." And so he restored things to the way they were before. And then people, out of their suffering, had motivation. This is why Holy Mother, in more than one place and time, said that once we understand it, suffering is a blessing. It provides us the motivation to do and be within time, space, and causation. As it was said some paragraphs back, when she is gracious, Mother grants liberation to the soul who has seen, so to speak, seen and experienced enough, and is no longer motivated by the world, no longer is motivated by suffering or by joy. And so liberation is granted, and there's no more rebirth and death. So this is the explanation as best it's understood from here, Shal.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions about that? That's a very pregnant question, and not a small one at all. It goes right to the heart of our experience as embodied beings. Why do we suffer? And ultimately, say the saints, and this includes Swami Prabhavananda, we understand, we reach a state of awareness where we understand everything that's happened to us. And we celebrate it. And this is the testimony of the saints that we're reading in this book, Love Poems from God. They all celebrate the fact that it was their suffering, as well as all the other experiences of life, that brought them to where they are speaking from as they speak or sing these love poems from God. So there is this necessity. And so Mother simply says, in this birth, they must have these experiences. And now there's an explanation we'll see from Swami Chaitananda. According to Vedanta, Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. Brahman is neither he nor she. But when that power of Brahman takes a form, it can be either Purusha or Prakriti, he or she. Moreover, the personal God can be both father and mother. A devotee once questioned Holy Mother's active role in the master. A devotee once questioned Holy Mother's active role in the Master's spiritual ministry, saying that the spiritual consorts of other avatars did not take such roles. The devotee asked why she was different. She replied, "My son, you are aware that the Master saw the Divine Mother in all beings. This time he left me behind to demonstrate that motherhood in this universe." And as we come to understand as we further read this book, but also as we continue to understand what is happening, that the Kali Yuga is ending and the Satyug, the manifestation of the full four aspects of Dharma, is dawning. This motherhood of God is prevalent. the benign aspect of the mother. In the Kali Yuga, we are seeing, I mean, from day to day, we are seeing some of the terrible aspects of mother, some of her terrible forms. If we understand correctly, we understand that the virus, this pandemic, is mother making her one form into many to accomplish her aims and purposes. This time, he, Ishvara, left me behind, Ishwari, the mother of the universe, to demonstrate that motherhood in this universe. Anything else from anyone? Holy Mother as protector. Prabodh Chandra Chattopadhyay and his wife were disciples of Holy Mother. They lived in Shambazar village, which is 12 miles from Jairambati. Inspired by the mother, Prabodh started a high school in Badranganj and became the first headmaster of that school. Ramai, later Swami Gaurishwarananda, was one of his first students. Prabodh was also president of the village union board. But because of his popularity, he had some enemies. His son, Shamprasad Chattopadhyay, wrote, "I heard this incident from my father. Once he was visiting Jairambati. A man came there and gave him a letter with this message, quote, 'Please return to your home this evening,' unquote. My father got ready to return home and went to bow down to the mother." Now remember, this subhead we're reading is Mother as Protector. So Prabodh went to return home and went to bow down to the mother. At that time, a few villagers had some enmity against my father for various reasons. It came to light later that there was a plot to murder my father that evening near a secluded canal on his way home. Upon hearing of the mother, upon hearing of the letter, the mother asked my father, "Do you recognize the handwriting of the person who wrote this letter?" "Yes, I do, mother." "Do you know the person who has come with the letter?" "No, mother, I don't know him." Then the mother said, "My son, do not go home tonight. Tomorrow morning, go home through a different route via Marageri with the watchman Ambika and Ramai. Go home through a different route via Marageri with the watchman Ambika and Ramai." My father bowed down to the mother and said, "All right, mother, I shall not go tonight. I shall go tomorrow according to your instruction." The next morning he returned home with Ambika and Ramai via Marageri. My father later said, I never disobeyed the mother's order, whatever it might be. My father did not know about the murder plot, but the omniscient mother knew it. Later, I heard from my father that a case was concocted so that he should return home that night. Long after my father's passing away, I verified this incident, which took place in 1917 through Swami Gaurishwarananda. The story of a Muslim bandit named Amzad also shows how Holy Mother protected those who took refuge in her. It is a fascinating tale of a Muslim robber who became a devotee of the mother and played a wonderful role in her divine drama. Human beings are not born with friends or enemies. They make friends and enemies through their actions and their words. There is a saying, a small-minded person discriminates between a relative and a stranger, but all are considered relatives by a great soul. I'll repeat that. There is a saying, a small-minded person discriminates between a relative and a stranger, but all are considered relatives to a great soul. That's what led Christ to say, feed the poor, clothe the poor, give shelter to the poor, sustain, support the poor. He said, even as you do unto the least of these, so you do unto me. So he not only saw them as relatives, his relatives, but as part of his own being. So that's the next higher step up from this. But a great soul will consider everyone their own. The life and teachings of an avatar or an illumined soul are not the exclusive property. Let's start again. The life and teachings of an avatar or an illumined soul are not the exclusive property of a particular clan or a country or a religion. They belong to the whole of humanity. Their universal outlook breaks all barriers between human beings and religions. Holy Mother made Muslims and Christians her own through her maternal love and affection. The first word after this subhead, the story of Amzad, is a name. Can someone say the name of that village?
It's Shiromanipur. Shiromanipur.
Shiromanipur. Shiromanipur is a predominantly Muslim village located 3 miles from Jairambati. Its inhabitants were forced by the English to make their living by cultivating silkworms. But the local silk industry could not compete with imported silk industries, so the villagers lost their jobs. Growing silk had kept them from cultivating rice and crops, so they had no food. To survive, they were forced to become bandits. The neighboring villagers were afraid and kept a vigilant eye on them. People refused to give them jobs, thinking they might return at night to steal. As the saying goes, bad things, bad times do not come alone. In 1915-16, there was a drought and famine in Bankura district. The poor had no food, so they became desperate. During this time, a Muslim villager named Amzad was caught in a robbery and sent to jail. Amzad's mother, Fatima, and his wife, Amzad's mother, Fatima, and his wife, Marijan, came to Holy Mother for help. She fed them puffed rice and molasses, and then gave them rice, oil, cloths, and a rupee. When news of her assistance spread, other Muslim families came to the mother, and she helped them also. Eventually, the Ramakrishna mission opened a relief center in Kualpura for the destitute. The rich and middle-class people of Shihar, Jibta,
Uh-huh.
Filuni, and Shambazar remained indifferent. The Ramakrishna mission opened a relief center, but the rich of the area remained indifferent. All these years, the mother was living in her old cottage and using her two brothers' cottages for her disciples and out-of-town guests. As the number of disciples was increasing, Swami Saradananda felt that mother needed a house of her own. Construction began on her new house in April 1915, and it was formally opened on 15 May 1916. Bibhuti Ghosh, the mother's disciple, hired Amzad and other Muslim workers to construct the house, which had a thatched roof, a mud floor, and mud walls. Swami Arupananda was in charge of the construction. Some narrow-minded, fearful villagers tried to discourage Holy Mother from hiring convicted thieves, but she did not listen to them. She treated the Muslim workers with kindness and talked to them in her soft, sweet voice. Those Muslim workers, many of whom were formerly bandits, called her mother. Observing their good behavior, the villagers later said, "By Mother's grace, even these robbers have become devotees of God." One day, the mother invited Amzad for lunch and served him on the porch of her house. Owing to caste prejudices, Nalini, the mother's niece, threw the food at Amzad's leaf plate from a distance. Holy Mother noticed this and said, "How can one enjoy food when it is served with such scorn? Let me wait on him properly." After Amzad had finished his meal, Holy Mother cleaned the place where he had sat with her own hands. Nalini shrieked, "Aunt, you have lost your caste." "Keep quiet," the mother scolded her. Then she added, "As Sharat is my son, exactly so is Amzad." I'm pausing so that we can let that sink in. "Mother or auntie, you have lost your caste." "Keep quiet," the mother scolded her. Then she added, "As Sharat is my son, exactly so is Amzad." In the evening prayer, "Speech cannot hold thee nor mind, yet without thee we think not nor speak. Love, who art partial to none, we are equal before thy sight." And this is exactly what this is pointing to. As Sharat is my son, exactly so is Amzad. Sharat was a direct disciple of Ramakrishna, the secretary of the Ramakrishna mission, and a monk endowed with saintly virtues. Amzad was a Muslim and a convicted robber. Thus, Holy Mother demonstrated that she is the mother of the good and the bad. She also showed kind treatment, can enkindle faith in the heart of a weak, lowly man, and prove to him that he is a son of the Divine Mother. Her example brought to life the words of Krishna, "I am the same toward all beings. To me there is none hateful or dear, but those who worship me with devotion. They are in me, and I too am in them." So before we go on, are there any questions or comments about this? Anything at all that you'd like to to make more your own from what we've been saying.
These are powerful, powerful pages, these 2 pages, Brother Shankara. So much truth in it. And
Yes.
so much truth in this.
Anything else? Okay. About 2 years later, Holy Mother was in Jairambati, bedridden with malarial fever. Devotees from various places came to see her. One morning, a brahmachari attending her noticed that an emaciated man of dark complexion, clad in rags and leaning on a stick, had entered the house. As he approached the mother's room, her eyes fell upon him. "Who is there?" she said in a feeble voice. Is it my child Amzad? Come in." Amzad stepped into the veranda, sat at the threshold of the room, and began to converse with the mother about his painful life. Observing that the mother was freely talking to him, the brahmachari left the room. He later returned to pick up the jar of Ganges water that was in the mother's room. Generally, when the mother was well, she offered food to the master after sprinkling Ganges water in the kitchen. That day, the brahmachari was supposed to offer the food. Now he was in a dilemma. He could not ask Amzad to leave without offending the mother, yet his caste prejudice was pricking his conscience. He would have to pass close by a Muslim to get to the jar of water. However, he decided to carry out his duty, thinking that if it was wrong, the mother would stop him. After offering food, he came back and put the holy water in mother's room. She watched everything but said nothing. At Holy Mother's request, Amzad was given oil to rub on his body, allowed to bathe in the pond, given a new cloth, and fed with good food until his stomach was full. That afternoon, as Amzad was returning home, chewing a betel roll, he seemed to be a completely different person. He carried in his bundle many gifts, including a bottle of Ayurvedic oil from the mother. Later, Holy Mother told the brahmachari, Amzad was unable to sleep because he had taken some kind of strong drug that overheated his brain. I had kept a bottle of Narayan oil with me for a long time, and I gave it to him. It will cool his brain if he uses it. That oil is very effective. Amzad soon recovered his health. What else could we expect, from mother's love? Amzad soon recovered his health. Whenever he was informed that something needed to be done in the mother's house, he came immediately and performed the task faithfully. Once the mother lost her appetite due to a prolonged illness, and the doctor suggested that she eat pineapples. That food was not in season in Jairambati. However, word was sent to Amzad, who searched in different villages until he found some pineapples for the mother. Despite the mother's affection, Amzad did not abandon his life of crime. The people of Jairambati were afraid of him, but due to his devotion to the mother, her village was free from robbery. Once after being released from jail, Amzad returned home and found some pumpkins growing on his vine. He picked them and went straight to the mother in Jairambati. I have been thinking of you for a long time, Holy Mother said. Where have you been all these days? He frankly replied that he had been in jail because he had stolen a cow. The mother paid no heed to his crime and said with great kindness, "I was worried by your long absence." Amzad was the leader of a gang of thieves. Bibhuti Ghosh recalled the following story, which Holy Mother told him with a smile. "O Bibhuti, have you heard of Amzad's wit and intelligence? An immoral girl from an oil caste family of Shihar had a paramour. She offered money to Amzad to kill her husband. She told him to knock at the door gently at night, and she would open the door. He should murder her husband and leave immediately. According to the plan, Amzad knocked on the door at night, and the girl opened it. But instead of killing her husband, Amzad snatched her earrings and ran away. As a result, Amzad was sent to jail." Swami Shanananda wrote, "When the mother was in Calcutta during her last illness, a letter arrived from Jairambati with the news that Amzad had committed a robbery in the neighboring village of Chandipur and had been severely injured. After hiding for a few days, he was arrested. When she heard the news, the mother remarked, 'My goodness, oh Bharata, I knew his robbing instinct was dormant. Do you think I took care of him for no reason? I kept him under my control by feeding him and giving him various gifts. He always obeyed me like a servant.' He always obeyed me like a servant, bending his head in humility. I lived with all my nieces, and they have so much jewelry. You boys were not always around me, and moreover, you were very young. It is said that after Holy Mother passed away, Amzad suffered a sword wound during a robbery. That wound became septic and ultimately caused his death. Thus, he reaped the result of his karma. It is not known what was in Amzad's mind after the mother's passing away. He must have missed a mother who showed him such love, compassion, and forgiveness. The mother demonstrated through Amzad how the power of love can counteract the power of evil, and as a result, her family was never attacked by those Muslim robbers. So again, let's pause to see if there's anything anyone wants to say or ask. No? It's interesting. We've lost most of our participants this evening. It's intriguing that they seem not to be particularly moved by this part of the mother's story. Perhaps there's something else to draw their attention.
Definitely, Brother Shankara, power of love is so powerful than the power of evil.
Yes, in
Many times in our lifetime, love is more powerful than the evilness.
yes,
Her,
there are many examples of this.
exactly. And
All right, we'll go ahead. If there's no other comments or questions. Mother of the Muslims. No human being is perfect, yet everyone struggles to attain perfection. Christ said, Be ye therefore Be therefore perfect, even as the Father in heaven is perfect. Only God is perfect, and the goal of religion is to attain that perfection, which is within all beings. People make mistakes, small or big, and those mistakes are our teachers. They uplift human souls and help people make progress on their journey. But one does not make any progress by brooding over mistakes or lamenting one's sins. Ramakrishna said, if you do 99 good deeds for a person and one bad, he will remember the bad one and won't care for you anymore. I'm going to read that again. If you commit 99 good deeds for a person and one bad, he will remember the bad one and won't care for you anymore. However, if you commit 99 sins, but do one thing to God's satisfaction, he will forgive all your wrongdoing. This is the difference between the love of man and the love of God. One day a Muslim man offered Holy Mother some bananas and said, Mother, I have brought them for the Master. Will you accept them? Of course I will, replied the mother. Extending her hands, she said, Give them to me. You have brought them for the Master. I shall certainly take them. A woman attendant of the mother was present and immediately protested. Mother, we know he is a thief. How can you offer his things to the Master? Without acknowledging her protest, the mother gave puffed rice and sweets to the man. After he left, the mother scolded her attendant and said sternly, I know who is good and who is bad. Oh my goodness, there's a great long. Rasan Ali Khan of, what's the name of this place?
It's Paramanandapur.
Paramanandapur.
Huh?
Rasan Ali Khan of Paramanandapur, a village adjacent to that other one, the Muslim village,
Manipur.
met the mother when he was 14 years old and later told some incidents about her life he had heard from his uncles. Peti Sheikh and Nedi Sheikh. They made their living by farming lands owned by Hindus, and they also had a bullock cart business. Holy Mother hired their carts when she traveled from Jairambati to Koalpura or Vishnupur, and from Koalpura to Jairambati. The mother's devotees also hired their carts so that the Muslim families could make some money. The wives of those bullock cart drivers sometimes visited the mother. She called them, I can't read the Sanskrit.
Bibi Ba Darasinla.
Bibi Ba?
Bibi Ba.
Bibi Ba, daughters-in-law.
Darasila is the meaning.
She fed them and listened to their stories. She fed them and listened to stories of their families. There was no market in Jairambati. Badanganj and Kualpur had big markets, and that Muslim village, had a small one. Almost every inhabitant of those Muslim villages grew vegetables. As Holy Mother had many visitors, Mapeti quite often brought various kinds of vegetables to her, such as pumpkins, gourds, kachu, an edible root, and also called drumstick bean. During the winter season, some Muslims brought date palm juice and molasses to the mother. They were reluctant to accept money from her, but she insisted, saying, "My son, you must accept a fair price for goods that you have produced with hard labor." The mother gave them money and fed the mother gave them money, fed them the master's prasad, and gave them puffed rice and sweets. Sab,
Sabina
Sabina Bibi,
Bibi.
an elderly Muslim woman, purchased mangoes and jackfruits in Kotapur, and sold them in Jairambati. Holy Mother often bought fruit from her. Holy Mother called her aunt. During Muslim festivals, the mother would send offerings to the
Dargah.
Dargah, a tomb of a Muslim saint in that village.
Shiromani. Yes.
One day Mapeti asked, "Mother, you are a Hindu. Why do you send sweets and other offerings during Muslim festivals?" She replied, "My son, is God different? All are one. You see, the master practiced Islam sadhana and prayed like the Muslims. Names of God are many, but He is one." Mapeti once had a divine vision of the mother. From then on, he believed that Holy Mother was a pir or saint. We've got a few minutes. Rather than read on, let's just mull over. Let's do the manana on what we've heard here. Mother simply would not accept any limitation on her grace, on her love, and as we've seen, it was transformative in people's lives. Though Amzad continued right up to his death. His death was caused by a sword wound that he received when he was committing a robbery. The wound became septic and he died. And Mother knew all this and yet did not restrain herself, and she encouraged her relatives and the brahmacharis who served her to also see all of these people, the Muslims as well as others, as her children, and to serve them and think of them in that way. Now, the next subhead is Mother of the Christians. We'll hear how many Westerners and others came to Mother. And she treated them again with the love and consideration and delight of a mother in her children. So is there any, that's what feels like being said from here. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara. It's sort of amusing to get caught up in the game of or the play of manyness, as we see. I don't want to sound, I mean, I just mean like the even some of the monks in the order seem to be caught up in the idea of meaningless when they aren't distinguishing, or I mean, excuse me, when they are distinguishing like a difference between the God that the Islam's the Muslim, excuse me, the Muslims worship and the gods that they worship.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, you know, as Vashishta remarked to was as Vashishta was weeping about the death of his sons, and Rama was approached by his brother Lakshmana, and he said, "Brother, this is this illumined soul who taught you so much. How can he be weeping over the death of his sons when he says that this whole universe is nothing but the vibration of consciousness?" And Rama said, "Oh, brother, you must understand, he who has wisdom also has ignorance." So we should not judge those who seem to us to be missing the mark, not holding to the ideal because of their own inner whatever it is that's inside them. If Amzad is loved and forgiven by them, by mother, if Amzad is loved and forgiven by mother and by Thakur, she says, then how much more, as she said, as she quoted the master saying, 99 things you may do wrong, but if you do one thing right, all of the other is not taken into account or is forgiven. So it's of course we will observe these things there. There's no way for us not to observe them. We just have to be careful not to take them any more seriously than mother would, if we can.
Yes, of course. I didn't mean to say that in a way that was like judgmental of the monks or anything. I just meant it from like you said, like an observational standpoint.
Yeah, well, we do observe these things. There's no two ways about it. And, you know, the violence and the horrors that have gone on in India across that line of demarcation between the two religions, it's very hard for people who grew up in that situation not to be reactive. I can imagine. Anything else from anyone?
This chapter, Brother Shankara, fits so well to the societal problems that we are facing now. And they all have to happen. I guess that's what I always thought. They have to happen in order for us to go. These things were happening all along in the history. Only thing is now we see them in front of us in the living room. Before that, we never saw them in the living room. We only heard in the newspapers, radios. And then when the television came, it just started sitting in front of us. Now, some people really take it so serious and just so much heart and suffer with it. It's these things have been happening all along. Robbers and all the goodness and the evilness and then all these things.
Right now, there's a lot of anti-Asian
Exactly.
horror going on.
Even in India, we have come so far to conquer the Hindu-Muslim prejudices, and now again it's going backwards. Now I hear from my families, it's going backwards now. It's just like here. It's around the world, I think it's happening, going backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards.
Well,
It's like names of gods are many, but he's one. Only some of us know that. Not many people really observe that truth, that reality.
no, it's very hard to keep
It's,
in
yeah,
our
in our society.
moment to moment awareness.
Yes. Under the name of God and love, there are more people killing each other in this universe. Just
And
and
this will continue
it will continue like that.
as this age ends.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. You're right.
But I think that when people say like they're killing, or if this happens like a violent extremism in the name of religion, I think these people are actually like not being honest with themselves of why they're engaging in this. Like they might say that this
Right?
is for um like I'm doing this because like God is telling me to do this, but I don't maybe, I mean maybe I'm wrong, but maybe violent extremism is a lie that they could be telling themselves.
well, Swami Vivekananda calls them fanatics,
Yep.
and he says that fanaticism is common.
It exists in every
It
religion.
is a mental disease. It is a mental disease. Something seizes these people, and um, they become fanatics, and so they, and as was pointed out by Ayman, it's clear that this is very much a part of what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious.
Yes.
And that's why all of us who are spiritually inclined, feel this tremendous disturbance in the collective unconscious.
Yes.
When we go to practice prayer, contemplation, concentration, meditation, we feel it. And so we have to push through that, not let it seize our minds, because it's there. It's there. As Swami Yogeshananda used to say, consciousness is primary and is not plural. So we're all experiencing that consciousness within which there is this terrible disturbance of the time we're in. The Germans have a term, Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, the spirit of the time. The spirit of the time is a very dark one. There are many other shining things happening also. It's never just one thing. But Holy Mother, at the time of World War I, was asked, Mother, the Master came, and look what's become of the world. And she said, yes, my child, but you must remember that when a seed is planted, before the new shoot can appear, the husk must become rotten.
Very true.
And so we're seeing that rotten husk. But we're also seeing, if we're attentive, that new shoot. And one of the aspects of that new shoot, we can compare it to a tree that comes up as many different, not just as one trunk, but as many. We can see the Ramakrishna order as one of the bright new shoots. And also we can look and see that under Pope Francis, the Catholic Church is transforming in many wonderful ways. And so the spirit of religion is in no sense disappearing from the world. The fact that there are fanatics does not poison our understanding that there is purity and grace and joy. And it's up to us to be part of that, to be part of that. Anything else from anyone?
What do you think attracts people to like these? I don't want to get too far off topic, but like these, like, you know, evangelical, Christian preachers we'll see like here in the U.S. Like,
It's a combination of fear and desire for entertainment. These evangelical preachers say, "Follow me, and you'll be safe." And their performances, if you watch them on television, they're very entertaining. Very entertaining. They make religion, their brand of religion, palatable by their entertainment value, in part. And they say, you know, if you send me so much money, I'll send you a prayer cloth or this or that or the other thing, and you'll be safe. That's at least part of it.
Also, this fanaticism of mental illness, it also comes from within the family too, Brother Shankara. One to one, it's like caretakers to the children. And then those children grow up with that fanaticism and then continue to go on unless somebody breaks that at some point, realizing, okay, this is wrong. I love my parents, but this is wrong. Their belief was wrong.
Yes.
Until they come to that point, it is very difficult to break that fanaticism because they have been in that atmosphere. It's almost like your skin. So
That's why they have created their own schools and universities and homeschool their children and so on.
They don't want them to expose.
They get exposed to. It used to be that these children would grow up and go away to college,
Yes,
and they would become apostate. They would become.
That's true. So sad.
Persuaded. Well.
Thank you.
Yes, dear.
Brother Shankara, you said this age is ending, and so what is the age that's ending?
You can look this up online, Katrina. It's called the Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga, Yuga, Kali Yuga. It is the darkest of the four ages, the four yugas. But as Sri Ramakrishna pointed out, the darkness is dense but thin. So you can it's like if you had a wall of black crepe paper, it would be very dark, very black wall. But the magic is that if you just wet your finger and put it against the crepe paper, it makes a hole. Sri Ramakrishna says one yearning moment, one true yearning moment, yearning to know God, will draw the attention of the divine. From where? From within you, and be transformative. So this age is ending. Sri Ramakrishna's advent, Sri Ramakrishna's incarnation and holy mothers, and his band of minstrels, as he said, were one of the signals that this is ending. And if you look up Kali Yuga and you find there's 15 signs in the Puranas, 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 15 signs that this age is ending. and you can see how accurate, though that was written so many, a couple, 3,000 years ago at least. It's very, prescient about what's going on right now. And the new age that is dawning is the brightest and the most full of, we translate dharma as righteousness. Dharma means far more than that. It means a completion of, or the possibility of the completion of perfection in human life. And so that's the age that is dawning. Now, two ages don't just, one ends on this date and the next one begins. They cross. So the Kali Yuga is dying away, and the Satyug, the golden age, the four ages are the golden age, the silver age, the bronze age, and the iron age. The golden age, Swami Vivekananda gave us a hint when he said, toward the very end of his life, he made the remark, well, I have given them enough for 1,500 years. So this period of transition, we may imagine, we're only a couple of hundred years into that 1,500 years, because he lived a couple hundred years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, and Sri Ramakrishna said he would come back. The date can be approximated as 2086. He said, I'll be back in 200 years to bring another wave of this spirituality that is lifting up the golden age into the world.
And recently, Brother Shankara, I saw in Bhutan and Nepal, a lot of young children around even 4-5 years of age, they send them to 1 year of monk school just to get the spirituality establishment done in their hearts and minds.
Yes.
I just wish that is part of the world for every child. I know it is hard to send your child at 4-5 years of age, even from home every day. That should be a requirement for us to grow towards enlightenment for all of us. That would be wonderful. I just hope someday it will happen. All the kids.
That's a very old Buddhist tradition.
Yes, they do send them in Bhutan. Even now, they send them here.
They send them to be in the care of the monks and
Yeah.
learn that frame of reference very early.
Yes.
When they're still in their formative years. Yes, it's beautiful.
Yes, that should be a requirement for all our children.
Please don't say it should be a requirement.
It would be nice, isn't it?
Well,
Not sending them away one year.
I just don't like the word should.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, should maybe is the wrong word.
It would
Nice if we all can learn that.
It might be auspicious if
Yeah.
but Aldous Huxley said
Yeah.
in Book Island that we don't need to send them away.
Yeah, you don't have to.
We need to, rather than teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic,
Yes.
we need to teach them first the power of imagination.
Yes.
The power of their own imagination. That's the first thing that we should allow children to experience, is the power of their imagination. And then once they've had come to that, and he said, this has nothing to do with IQ. It has nothing to. Every child has this great fountain of imagination. And so once the child has been established in the power of their imagination, then the next thing, the most auspicious thing, he says, is to allow them to experience the power of cooperation, so that they can learn that what they imagine they don't have to accomplish by themselves. That if they learn to cooperate with others, you cooperate with me, I cooperate with you.
Mm-hmm.
Together we do remarkable things. This was Aldous Huxley's prescription,
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
it seems to me a very, very powerful one.
It does.
And in that line, Albert Einstein said, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. And he said of himself that his most powerful attribute was his capability of fantasy, not imagination. He used a word that's even beyond and more powerful, the power of fantasy. And he says this is how he made the discoveries that he
Thank you, Brother Shankar.
made. It's only the word should that I objected to, dear. It isn't that it would be
That is true. It's
auspicious for children
more judgmental. Should.
to be given a spiritual frame of reference early.
Sure. I agree with you. Thank you. Thanks for the correction.
Anything else from anyone, dears? All right. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite, universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. And finally, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. May you go forward in the Divine Presence's loving and protective embrace.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Thanks, everybody.
So until next time, does anyone know, did something happen tonight that drew people away? Something in the news? Is something remarkable happen? Anyone know anything?
Don't know anything, Brother Shankara.
Because about half the people that were with us for whatever reason
Yeah.
left, which is a little unusual. That's why I'm remarking on it.
I had seen there were like 9 people at the most that during this meeting. So I think like 2 people might have left.
Ah, well, that's sweet. Okay.
Thank
you. Good night to you all. Until next time.
Good night.
Good night, Katrina. So good to see you. Hear your name. I mean, see your name and hear your voice.
Good night, everyone.
I'll get it right. Good night,
Thank
y'all.
you. Good night.